Hello everyone, Earl Henderson, Primordial Defense. Thank you for watching. I have another Monday quarterback video for you. I'm going to play this video and then pause intermittently throughout it to talk about things that are going on, to better explain what's going on, and talk about things that I think that were done right and or done wrong. So, without further ado, here we go.
Hello, my name is Rick Armendariz, the Deputy Chief for the Anaheim Police Department. This video is intended to provide you with information about an officer-involved shooting that occurred on Thursday, March 3rd, 2022, in the 600 block of South Resch Street. As you can imagine, an officer-involved shooting is a tragic event for everyone, for our officers, for our community, and for the family members of those involved. These incidents demand the highest level of scrutiny and rightfully are a matter of public concern. The Anaheim Police Department conducts exhaustive investigations following any officer-involved shooting. The investigation related to this incident is still ongoing and could take up to 1 year to complete. With that in mind, we withhold judgment and do not draw any conclusions about whether or not our officers acted within our policies and in accordance with the law until after all the facts are known and the investigations are complete. A word of caution. The images and footage you're about to see may be disturbing. When a police officer uses force to arrest a suspect or defend against an attack, it can be graphic and difficult to watch. In addition, there may be strong language used by those shown in the video. Viewer discretion is advised, especially young children and sensitive viewers.
I'm Sergeant Jacob Gallagher with the Anaheim Police Department Professional Standards Section. I'm going to provide you with a brief overview of an officer-involved shooting that occurred on Thursday, March 3rd, 2022. This incident began on Wednesday, March 2nd, 2022 at approximately 9:44 p.m. when the Anaheim Police Department Communications Center received a 911 call from a female who indicated her friend had shot a gun into the air and threatened to shoot her. Here is a portion of the call made to our communications center.
911 emergency.
I have an emergency. Someone is shooting right here at my house, Anaheim.
Okay, can you see them or do you just hear shots?
Yes, I can see him. I know him. Please come.
Who is he?
I don't have time for this. I'm going to get...
You have to have time. We need to know this information.
I'm going to get shot, ma'am.
Dispatchers have to put up with so much shit. They really do. Man, like, if you if you could just listen to a snippet from a day's worth of call-ins, people calling in, like, you would just be left thinking, like, what the fuck is wrong with my town? Like, is everyone retarded? But, like, yeah, it's just, dispatchers have a hard job. They really do. They have to talk to some of the dumbest out there, and they have to. And on a more serious note, I mean, they are having to talk to people who are experiencing probably some of the worst times of their life. People been involved in car accidents, people who witness a family member go into cardiac arrest at home, and a mother or father calling about a missing kid, or their kid drowning in a pool. Like, and they are having to deal with people who are experiencing extreme emotional disturbances, and people who are experiencing other extreme situations. And, you know, that coupled with, like, all the annoying callers and people's attitudes. I mean, if you've ever worked at a call center, or if you've ever had to answer the phone and talk to public, just imagine like having to do that all the time and talking to people. And, like, I can understand, like, when someone comes off and says something, like, just getting right with them, like, well, you're going to have to make time. and she's accurate, you know, she's right. Like, yeah, you're going to have to make time to describe this, like, because that information is important for those officers responding to that call. The more information, the better, in most cases.
Okay, so you're refusing to give any information?
No, I'm not refusing. I'll give it.
Okay, who is he?
He is my friend.
Okay, what's his name?
Osman Brown.
Okay, where does he live? Does he live with you?
Yes, he does.
Okay, and is he inside or outside?
He's outside right now.
Okay, and who is he shooting at?
He's shooting in the air, but he's got a big gun, and he's threatening me.
Okay, what did he say to you?
that he's going to shoot me.
Okay, how many shots did you hear?
Can you save me?
How many shots did you hear, ma'am?
Several. He's coming back in the house.
Okay, are you able to put him on the phone so I can talk to him?
No, he's too crazy.
Okay, is there anybody else in the house with you?
No, ma'am.
Okay, do you live by yourself?
He's here. He lives here.
Okay, what kind of car does he drive?
I have to hang up. Hello?
Yes.
Can you send somebody?
Yes, I'll send somebody to speak with you, okay?
Hurry.
Okay.
Based on the information the caller provided, the dispatcher entered a priority call for service, and officers self-dispatched to the location. Officers arrived and located the calling party, who explained Mr. Brown was in possession of 2 guns. Here is a portion of the police radio traffic associated with this incident.
Perfect. We got contact with, and she's claiming that there are in fact 2 guns involved, and both real as far as she's concerned, one of which is a .38. I last saw him out in front of the res, west side of the street. I think that's where he is. She says he does live there, and there's nobody else inside. And I've since lost visual again. He may have gone inside.
The suspect in this incident was later identified as Osman Brown. Officers arrived at the location and spoke with the calling party, who relayed Mr. Brown pointed a .38 caliber firearm at her and threatened to shoot her. She further explained Mr. Brown had 2 guns and that he had fired 1 round from one of the weapons while he was outside the residence. The reporting party told officers she feared for her life, and she was adamant the firearms Mr. Brown possessed were real. She further believed Mr. Brown would shoot at officers in the event they approached him. Based on the information the victim provided, officers determined there was probable cause to arrest Mr. Brown for assault with a deadly weapon, negligent discharge of a firearm, criminal threats, and felony domestic violence. Mr. Brown was believed to be inside a residence in the 600 block of Southwest Street, so officers established a containment area around the residence with the hopes of locating Mr. Brown and safely taking him into custody. All Anaheim Police Patrol and SWAT officers are equipped with body-worn cameras. Per Anaheim Police Department policy, all body-worn cameras must be worn in a forward-facing position that facilitates comprehensive recordings of contacts and/or incidents. You are about to view body-worn camera footage from that perspective. It is important to keep in mind that body-worn cameras are an investigative tool, and like any device, they have limitations. Body-worn cameras do not necessarily capture everything an officer sees, just like a body-worn camera may capture something an officer does not see. Further, body-worn cameras do not have the ability to depict what an officer is feeling or experiencing during a given incident. Numerous attempts were made to contact Mr. Brown, including calling his cell phone, calling a landline inside the residence, and utilizing a public address system to call him out of the house. This was done in the hopes Mr. Brown would cooperate and safely exit the residence. Mr. Brown did not communicate with officers and refused to exit the home. Because Mr. Brown was armed, refused to exit the residence, and there was probable cause to arrest him for several violent felony crimes, this incident became a barricaded suspect event. Accordingly, this incident transitioned from a patrol-driven response to a response led by our Tactical Response Group, which includes members of our SWAT and Tactical Negotiation teams. These teams have specialized tools and training in dealing with armed and barricaded suspects. In addition to these teams, a member of the Orange County Crisis Assessment Team, a team dedicated to assisting those who may be experiencing a mental health or behavioral crisis, was also requested to respond. As this transition was occurring at 12:34 a.m., officers heard a gunshot come from the rear yard of the residence. The gunshot can be heard in the following body-worn camera footage.
What was that?
For the next 2 hours and 40 minutes, tactical negotiators attempted to get Mr. Brown to exit the residence and peacefully surrender. He did not comply and did not respond to any communication attempts. Nearly 5.5 hours after this incident began, at 3:14 a.m., Mr. Brown exited the front door of the residence, began yelling incoherent statements, and acting in a belligerent manner. He then retreated back inside the residence and repeated this behavior several times. At 3:41 a.m., Mr. Brown exited the front door of the residence, simulated having a gun in his hand, and made a firing motion in the direction of officers. At 3:51 a.m., Mr. Brown once again exited the front door of the residence, this time carrying an assault rifle. He briefly pointed the gun in the direction of officers and once again walked back inside the house. Approximately 1 minute later, Mr. Brown once again exited the front door of the residence, this time holding a revolver in his right hand. Mr. Brown pointed the gun at officers, and an officer-involved shooting occurred. A total of 4 officers discharged lethal weapons, and 1 officer discharged a 40mm less lethal weapon. The following footage and images are from one of the involved officers' body-worn camera.
Mr. Brown, look, you step out, please. With your hands up. No one needs to be hurt. Please make it easy for everybody. Step out, hands up. Osman Brown, loves you. Please step out. No one needs to get hurt. Please step out. Hands up.
Still moving at the door. Yeah, he's still at the door. He's been there. Just can't see him.
What is that?
What's he got in his hand?
He's got a gun.
No, it's a little.
Okay, so what was the fire? The fire? He had a look like
Yeah.
an AR-15 in his freaking hand.
No, it was.
Go ahead, Kitty. What?
It looked like a little. I mean, it was a gun, but it was like a toy. Looked like a little toy drum gun. I don't know.
Like an AR pistol with the drum
Did it?
mag.
Oh, is that what it was?
That's what it looked like. Yeah, it looked like a short barrel AR pistol with a drum mag.
I saw the drum there.
This is gonna sound weird, but if we back this mark you
Hold on.
2
Hey,
feet,
he's
yeah,
back at the door again, guys.
Does that spotlight now not hit and backlight it? Does the spotlight not hit the door perfectly?
I think you're still gonna hit the car. He's got a gun in his hand. Gun in his hand right now.
Revolver in his hand.
Revolver in his hand. Step outside! Step outside! Yeah, he pointed the gun right at us. All right, he's down at the front. He's down at the front door, guys. Down at the front door.
Down at the front door.
He's got the gun still by his side. He's not moving.
Alright, we good? Hold on, we got plenty. Let's get back to cover.
Why don't we step over to the car so we can get a good eye on him?
The turret's got him.
Okay.
The guys in the turret's got him plenty.
Coming back. Coming back.
The guys in the turret got eyes on him. Don't worry.
Right.
We're
Let's
back.
go back. Let's go back.
Coming back.
All right.
He's going to do the subjects down in the
He's down in the
doorway.
front.
We're just putting together a plan to save
I'm just gonna keep a light on them. Turret guys, can they go light? Some turret guys go light.
That's good?
Yeah, we're all, yeah.
Hey, nobody injured, right?
Yep, no.
Everybody's good?
He didn't get any shots off. He leveled it, pointed it right at us.
Okay.
No rounds off though on his end.
After the officer-involved shooting occurred, officers formed a REACT team in an effort to safely take Mr. Brown into custody. As they approached Mr. Brown, they were concerned because he was still in possession of the revolver. Mr. Brown was asked to discard the firearm, however, he did not comply. To ensure there was no intentional noncompliance on Mr. Brown's part, a 40mm less lethal projectile was deployed to determine Mr. Brown's responsiveness. Mr. Brown was responsive, and he was commanded to discard the firearm in his possession. He did not comply. A short time later, a second 40mm less lethal projectile was deployed to determine his responsiveness. This time, he was unresponsive. Because Mr. Brown failed to discard the weapon, his close proximity to a residence that had not been searched, and to ensure the safety of police personnel, a police canine was used to separate Mr. Brown from the revolver. Once this had been completed, officers began rendering medical aid to Mr. Brown. A tactical paramedic team, who was standing by a short distance away, responded and triaged Mr. Brown. He was pronounced deceased at the scene. The following are evidentiary photographs of the guns Mr. Brown possessed in connection with this incident. This photograph depicts the gun Mr. Brown pointed at officers at the time of the officer-involved shooting. The revolver was loaded at the time of this incident. And these photographs depict the assault rifle Mr. Brown exited the residence with. The rifle was a .223 unserialized ghost gun with a dual-drum high-capacity magazine. This weapon was also loaded at the time of this incident.
In the city of Anaheim, when a critical incident, such as an officer-involved shooting, occurs, several investigations are initiated. The Orange County District Attorney's Office conducts an investigation to determine whether the involved officer's actions were within the law. The Anaheim Police Department's homicide detail investigates criminal conduct of any potential suspects prior to or during the incident. Finally, our Internal Affairs and Major Incident Review team examines any areas where improvements can be made and determines whether the actions of the involved officers were within policy and consistent with our training. If you would like more information about the Anaheim Police Department's use of force policy, please visit us at our website. Thank you for taking the time to view this critical incident community briefing.
This guy comes out and they use lethal force on this guy, and no problem with that whatsoever. I think it's totally appropriate. I mean, he's armed and he's doing stupid shit. Typically that's going to happen. I like how after he went down to the ground, before approaching, they utilized a less lethal launcher to hit him to get a response, and they got a response out of him, and was able to be able to make a more safer approach. Had they not initially hit him with a less lethal, it's possible that they could have walked up on him and then he decided to stop playing possum and roll over real quick and shoot one of them. And he could have gotten one lucky hit before they all opened up on him and turned him to Swiss cheese. But he would have been able to get one round off and take one of them with him if he got a lucky shot. Now, if you hit him in the vest, probably not going to go through, but hit him in the face, it's bad news bears on that. Action generally beats reaction. So if you've ever played the game where you got your both hands out and the other person has their hands out and you're basically got your hands side by side, palms facing the ground, and the other person has their hands under your hands and their palms are facing the sky, so you're palm to palm. The person with their hands under yours will very quickly take their hands out from under yours and then smack the top of your hands. And they will generally be able to do that before you can jerk your hands back to prevent yourself from being smacked on top of the hands. So that's action versus reaction. And generally speaking, the one who gets to make the move first does pretty well and can outmove the person who's having to react to that movement. So it's very conceivable that he could have just turned and shot one of them officers in the face before they could react and turn his ass into Swiss cheese. So I like that approach of hit him with the beanbag or the 40mm impact and get a response out of them. I think that in that instance of, well, depending on the distance and everything, they probably did it from a distance, but I think that, if they were to make the approach from where he can't see very well and then deploy taser on him. Or if they probably have it in their arsenal from that distance, if you get a reaction out of them with the 40mm and they refuse to do it, light their ass up with a pepper ball gun. Light them the fuck up until they comply, and then you're covering them with OC powder, and it's going to make their eyes close and give them a sense of difficulty breathing. It's going to make him a less effective fighter. And then I have no issue whatsoever of making that approach and go ahead and just deploying taser on them and achieving an arrest under power. That way they can't control their limbs or anything. Loaded gun, and it looks like we have a federal issue right here. This appears to be a short-barreled rifle, an SBR. So he has a pistol length barrel on this thing, but he has a collapsing stock. So that now makes this a federal offense. And so I hope that from a federal standpoint, the ATF charges him for having an SBR. And here's the sad thing. He would probably get more time over having this SBR, this NFA. This is a National Firearms Act item right here. This is almost one and the same as having a machine gun, an unlicensed machine gun. You have to have a license to have a short-barreled rifle like this. Now, you may be looking at it and be thinking, well, this looks like an AR pistol. Yes, it does look very similar to an AR pistol, but you can't have a collapsing stock on an AR pistol. It no longer makes it a pistol. It makes it a short-barreled rifle. So if the feds could charge him on this, I guarantee he'd probably get a lot more time out of this than what he would be getting from his state-level charges for all the bullcrap that he pulled and getting shot by the police. Kind of sad to think about that, but that's usually how that ends up, and that's why some cities are gravitating towards the feds and partnering with them and letting the federal government, the federal agency, police agencies, take primary on some investigations, because they know if the feds got a good case on them and they take them to federal court and they get sentenced, their ass is going away for a while. It's not like state court. It's not like state court at all. And some places are really starting to embrace their federal resources and getting people locked up on federal charges, which it's bullshit that they have to play those little games to get violent offenders off the street for a long period of time. But unfortunately, that's what happens when you have a bunch of stupid-ass liberal judges getting elected within large metropolitan areas from people who base their decisions based off emotions and not logic. That's about it on this video. If you like what you hear and see, go ahead and give me a like and a share. If you have not already, hit that subscribe button and stay tuned for more Monday quarterback videos. Earl Henderson, Primordial Defense, thank you for watching.